Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Hi, I'm Mark Jobe, president of the Moody Bible Institute. On Bold Steps, my goal is to take you on a path of authenticity in Christ. I've been a pastor for decades in the city of Chicago, and my desire is to bring Bible teaching that is clear, practical, and that pushes people to take bold steps in their walk with God. You can hear Bold Steps weekdays at noon and Sundays at 7 p.m. here on Moody Radio Cleveland.
More on Records is proud to present Brian Sings, a compilation of hits from the host of Mornings with Brian. Brian has always loved the musical theater.
Tomorrow.
And he can sing in character, too.
The sun will come out.
Brian can sing the classics. And his own original works.
I'm upset about the weather and the rain.
He even draws in a friend on this record as Dave Safransky joins Brian to sing about some of their favorite medical discoveries.
Ozempic, you know. Plop, plop, fish, fish, oh, what a relief it is.
And Dave sings his moving personal testimony as a financial advisor.
Oh, take the money and run.
This record is not available in or out of stores. You can only hear it weekday mornings from 6 to 9 a.m. on Mornings with Brian, here on Moody Radio Cleveland.
How beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Welcome to Footsteps from TWR. With today's discussion, here is Andy Napier.
One of TWR's most popular radio programs around the world is Through the Bible, which features the teaching ministry of Dr. J. Vernon McGee. Greg Harris serves as the president for TTB. And Greg, pick a country and share a story.
Yeah, we started broadcasting in the Luganda language for Uganda. And typically, as broadcasters, you don't expect much response for even 6 months or a year. You have to build an audience, and you don't expect to hear any life-change stories. Well, in the first 2 weeks, we experienced the most amazing story that I've heard for a long time. Now, you have to understand that the first 2 weeks of the Through the Bible entire survey of the Bible is 10 programs called Guidelines for Interpreting and Understanding the Scripture. It's not even really beginning to teach the Bible. It's essentially explaining why we can trust the Bible as God's Word and how do you study it. Well, after 2 weeks of being on the air in the Luganda language, a very prominent Muslim imam, and that's like the pastor of the local mosque, came to the church of one of the men who was helping lead this project. This Muslim imam walked into a Sunday service. He was very well known in the community, and it caused quite a stir because people thought, why is he here? And he quickly calmed everyone and said, don't worry, I've been listening to this new program, which translates into Know Your Bible, and I have become convinced that the Bible is the Word of God. And this morning, I was praying, and God said, go to church and give your heart to Jesus Christ. And he did.
Wow. For a link to Through the Bible, go to twr.org/footsteps.
Footsteps is a production of TWR.
It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Christian counseling for adults, couples, children, and families. North Coast Family Foundation. WCRF, Cleveland. WVMS, Sandusky. WVML, Millersburg. WVMN, Newcastle. WVME, Meadville. WVMU, Ashtabula. And with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Elon Musk says all federal workers must report what they did last week or be dismissed. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. In a social media post, Musk revealed employees will receive an email requesting information about what they worked on in the last 7 days, and any failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. The move comes after President Trump said he'd like to see Musk be more aggressive in his efforts to slash the federal workplace. The Akron Public Schools Board of Education is expected to consider today motions related to the district's review of DEI policies. Public K-12 schools across the nation have been put on notice by the Trump administration that they must eliminate all race-based policies and decision-making, or else risk the loss of federal funds. Members of the Cleveland Fire Department were called into action Sunday when a man was injured on Lake Erie's ice. Details of the man's injury have not been reported, but the incident happened about 300 feet offshore. In sports, the Cavs tamed the Grizzlies 129-123, but the Penguins were outgunned by the Rangers 5-3. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Partly sunny, breezy, and warmer with highs in the upper 40s. How nice does that sound, right? Currently mostly cloudy, 37 in Cleveland, 33 Akron and Canton. Clear skies in Ashtabula where it's 33 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
America Saves Week, which takes place the last week of February, is an annual rallying cry for average Americans to engage in successful saving. We suggest you complete a budget, which helps you to gain a clearer picture of your resources, set savings objectives, and devise a plan to attain them. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcast.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Good morning. It's a brand new week, and it's actually Walk-Worthy Men's Conference week.
Ooh.
Very
that's
exciting. It's on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Big week.
Like this Saturday. Super exciting. Can't wait to see you there. Pastor Paul Cannings is going to start packing soon, I would imagine. Dotting the I's and crossing the T's of his message.
Yeah, he's going to be sad. This week's going to be warm. We may melt off all that snow he was hoping to see.
Oh, praise the Lord. So it's going to be like how warm?
40s and 50s?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm ready. Are you guys ready or what?
Yes, Saturday's 41.
Wow.
Nice.
Is it going to keep going, Ron? Like, what's the graph?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it spring?
It'll probably drop down to zero
We talked
again
about
a couple
this last
times.
week. There's no graph. This is when it starts to get warm.
Scatter plot.
I'm sorry. You haven't heard of Puxatawny Phil? You haven't heard of that guy?
I have.
Yeah. Or Buckeye Chuck? Sorry?
We do Buckeye Chuck here.
It's all about graphs for those guys. It's not a scatter plot. The graph is just, it's a steady climb or a steady drop.
No, those guys, if they wore pants, they would be on fire.
Well played, Ron. I like that. Sarah and I did something pretty wild. We went on a date.
Aw, cute.
Aw, look at you guys.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know, years or something. I don't know. It's been a long time. It's hard to describe how life just gets so crazy when you got all
go
the
out to
kids in
dinner?
business. Yeah, and we are slowly cheering for Warren, Ohio.
Okay.
Good.
Lots of stuff going on there?
Well, I mean,
The
Warren.
Walmart's there, right?
Well, it's technically in Niles. It's outside of Warren.
Okay.
I would just say, generally speaking, my experience in Northeast Ohio is people kind of look at Warren and go, meh. Like, I don't know, why would I go there? Have you ever heard that, Ron?
Well, for me, from Medina, why would I go to Warren? Makes sense.
I mean, yeah, it's like maybe stop on your way to Pennsylvania. But.
Yeah, but I guess it's okay.
Yeah, and it's one of those where people probably would rather go to Niles than Warren. Maybe they'll go to Youngstown instead of Warren. And I got to tell you, it's one of the coolest downtown areas in Northeast Ohio. It's one of the oldest cities in the state.
Oh,
I mean, we're driving to dinner, and we drive past this place that on the sign is like, since 1909. And I'm like, what is this? It's a bicycle shop.
Oh, cool.
How cool is that? They were like, there were no cars, there were horses. It was like, I'm going to get a bike. And they're still in business. It looks super
so cool.
And there's just more and more restaurants opening that are like cool. We went to a place that had really good burgers and was like energetic. And there was and the downtown area, like a year ago, we went to a place that was very like trendy and cool. I don't know. Cool people are in Warren now.
Good.
They're not where you guys are. They're in Warren.
Apparently not.
No, the cool people are where I am too. And
No,
you know
they
that's true.
really are in Cuyahoga Falls.
Yes,
Cuyahoga
they are.
Falls is like super cool. Warren could be
The
Cuyahoga
next Cuyahoga
Falls.
Falls.
The way like the city is designed and everything, it's just
You can like walk around and stuff.
yeah. And the like the city hall area is think like Back to the Future set.
Okay.
Just
I've got it in mind.
Huge old building. I don't think there's a clock tower, but
Oh, too bad.
also from Warren, Ohio, Rob Lowe.
Oh,
Did not
Wow.
know that.
Yeah, there you go. I said it again this time. My wife totally blew past it because I say it every time we go to Warren, Ohio.
sounds about right.
Sounds.
I also think you have something to recant. Please,
Yeah, I wondered if you were going to go there.
please go right ahead.
Yeah, so Lauren and I were on Fox 8 last week
Yes.
talking about the Walk-Worthy Men's Conference. Had a fabulous time. And we were backstage with the mic lady.
Yep.
Who
Mandy.
Mandy's amazing. She's a big personality. And she's got the fun job of getting real close to perfect strangers and reaching up their shirts with microphones.
Yeah.
And so
You got to have a personality to do that. You
Yeah.
got to make it silly.
So you might see on Fox 8 people wearing a little lapel mic, and you're like, oh, cool. They probably put that on themselves. Nope. Watching people struggle to do that is probably just a waste of time. So she just comes in and it's like, hey, I don't know you. Normally I
on in
take you
here.
out once or twice before I do something. It's just a funny thing like that. And so I think it's just a time to chat. And Lauren just wants to avoid eye contact and be quiet.
Say thank you very much. That's all.
So we became best friends with her.
Correct.
And she was commenting on your hair.
Mm-hmm.
She
Corn
loves
silk.
your corn silk
My
hair.
course.
And the two, and I mentioned, she just wanted to brush your hair and stuff. I was like, yeah, when I was first married, I used to like brush my wife's hair and dry it, like blow dry it, and she loved that. And I was walking past my wife doing that to my daughter, and she goes, "Hey, your dad used to do this to me all the time." And I was just assuming that was an observation.
It was not, was it?
Well, you and Mandy
Me
were
and Mandy
insisting.
agreed.
You were bullying me, really.
Correct. She was saying, Sarah, your wife, was saying, I want you to do this again. She was dropping some hints. And you didn't
I was
believe.
like, I think that's an observation. I think she's just commenting on my daughter. Isn't this sweet? Find a man who will do this for you someday. Blah, blah, blah.
And what happened?
I went home and I was like, you wouldn't believe Lauren and this Mike lady were hassling me. And she's like, what? What were they saying? I was like, well, there's the hair, blah, 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 tell the whole story. And she goes, well, I mean, it'd be nice.
And there it is.
So you
I
were
told
right.
my husband, Eddie, this exact same story. He said, is Brian dumb? Of course she wants him to do it.
What's Eddie doing?
Oh, I don't want him to do that. No.
Convenient.
You don't want him to do
No,
that?
please don't touch my hair.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No. My scalp's too sensitive. You're yanking, you're pulling, just like leave it alone.
Eddie gets a pass on everything.
Yeah. I had the converse happen to me. We were talking about something, but coffee cups came up. And I said, remember when we used to have those white plastic cylindrical cups with a brown plastic around them that looked like what you'd get from a coffee shop back in the day? You know, the brown paper over it, but these were all plastic. And she says, oh, yeah, I remember them. All of a sudden, we've got a 6-pack of them arriving in the mail.
She thought you wanted them.
And I thought, of all the things we need, coffee mugs is among the bottom.
Yes. I need no more coffee mugs.
And if I needed another, we're going to get another batch eventually of Mornings with
Correct.
Brian,
Yes.
and I'll get one of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now
Well, she was listening. She thought you wanted one.
She wasn't understanding. She was listening and assuming.
Yeah, it doesn't go both ways. Women drop hints, men usually not so much.
Yeah, like if we make an observation, it's what we would call an observation.
Yeah.
And if we have something we would like, we ask for it. It's this wild thing. I don't know where this comes from. It's wild.
I have to be careful if I say, boy, I'd really like to have a pickup truck.
Oh, she's going to go out and get one.
There's our 30,000 or no, probably more than that.
Oh, yeah.
About
These days, I mean,
50, 60.
when I was looking for a car, a brand new truck, 100,000. You want a brand new big pickup truck? You're not going to be, no, Ron. It's going to be like $100,000.
Wow.
When you see those people speeding past you dangerously when it's wet and slippery, they're cool because they spent as much as we used to spend on houses on their giant trucks. You got to have a good kid story or two from this weekend. You got 2 little talkers.
Yes, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget exactly what he said. Okay, so out of the blue, my son Trey, he's 4. He asked me, how does God make people feel better? And I said, well, he can give us peace. He can have people love us in different ways, like show us his love through other people. He can, give us rest and comfort. And he looked at me and said, but Mom, I don't like peas.
So, did you laugh? That's
Yes.
a tough call there.
Yes,
I mean,
I
you
did.
can't
And I
not
said,
laugh, right?
not peas, peace. He's like, well, whatever, just like wandered off.
So he thought if like he was having a bad day, God was going to make it worse by giving him a spoonful of peas.
Correct.
That's great. That's great. All right, 6:15. Remember, this Saturday's Walk Worthy, so text WALK to get your ticket to 440-546-2255. Coming up in just a minute, we're going to chat a bit about how you and everyone else in your small group probably plays one of 5 roles.
Making assumptions is rarely a good idea. That's true when it comes to thinking healthcare costs can't be affordable. Christian Healthcare Ministries has been helping believers meet their healthcare needs for over 40 years. It's not insurance, it's a ministry. Visiting chministries.org/Moody eliminates assumptions and shows how this unique model has worked to meet the healthcare needs of hundreds of thousands of Christians. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
It's true, even kids can experience temptation. Help your children understand what temptation is and how God gives them the power to resist it. With our February Today in the Word Family Study. Today in the Word Family Studies have age-appropriate discussion questions and activities that will help your children enjoy spending time in God's Word. To download your free copy of this month's family study, go to todayintheword.com/family. Spend time in God's Word together. todayintheword.com/family.
Today, there is a disciple-making church planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative, but there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Every small group has these 5 people. Which one are you? This is Relevant Magazine. You're listening to WCRF Mornings with Brian. I'm going to take you through the 5, and you can either holler out when you find yourself, or you can wait till the end. And they do put the caveat that you could be more than one.
Oh, no.
Number 1, the oversharer.
No.
Not me.
They were born for small group, or at least they think they were. Essentially, like before anything starts, they're already like, I've been struggling a lot. And they just start unleashing their pain. Now, we do love, all of these have a positive. It's not making fun only.
Okay.
We love the overshare because they make it an honest place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing. But they also just launch into it. Okay, second one, the question dodger. This is the person who, when you're going around to share reflections, they find a way to get out of it.
That'd be me.
Me too.
At least you're honest.
Usually like a witty comment and a good laugh and a non-answer.
Yeah, and look to the next person.
And you move on. And no one even knows you didn't answer.
They do. Because they're writing an article about it.
That's so true. The Bible scholar, they are not just prepared for your, or by the way, the question dodger, they're not trying to be difficult. They haven't decided how much they want to share.
Oh, sure.
And it's okay to not share your whole life
If
like
you
you
don't
overshare.
Trust the group yet.
The Bible scholar is the person who's already not only looked at commentaries on the passage this week, but they've looked up the Greek and they're ready to launch into this puppy.
It's not me.
I'm leaving space.
It's not me. I keep my mouth shut so that I am not that person.
I appreciate them, though.
Because we need them.
Yeah. And there's a variety, like some present it humbly, but like, I happen to know this information. Let me share it with you. While others are like, oh, wait, stop the presses. I have something to say.
And they love to cite theologians and things like, they're the scholar. But we need them because they keep the guardrails up so we don't fall into weird heresies and stupid teachings. We need them. The therapist friend. So this is the person who basically is the therapist of the group. They're the one who shows empathy. They're kind-hearted. They're a good listener. They're not bothered by the oversharer. They're the therapist of the group. The downside, of course, is nobody ever asks them how they're doing because they're the caregiver. And finally, the one who might be leaving. They show up sporadically, and when they're there, you're kind of like, oh, they must be like very busy and mysterious, and
oh, I'm sad.
They're just not sure if they're ready
They've
to commit
got like
yet.
one toe in.
Yeah, and they're just testing the waters. But so Ron and I have self-declared, by the way. Just let's point that out. Go ahead.
We have one in our small group, which because of my thumb accident, I've been able to attend many small groups for a change. And one gal who does not make it very often, but it's because she's got, family obligations that make it difficult. So it's not always a person who's just not committal. Sometimes they would love to be there. They just have so much going on. They can't be there. So be patient with them.
So we have the oversharer, question dodger, Bible scholar, therapist friend, and the one who might be leaving.
Mine's not in there.
Yeah, I don't think I fit any of those categories.
So what are you then? The perfect member?
No. The observer. I just kind of sit and listen.
Oh. Well,
That's good.
What about when it's your turn? Are you dodging?
If we're going in a circle and it's like everyone has to share something, yes. No, I answer.
So you don't
Honestly.
have a small skosh of one of those 5?
I guess if anything, it'd be
Little
the
smidge.
therapist where I'm just like listening.
Okay. Yeah, I could take that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dari, do you have a sliver of any of them?
I mean, no, not really. I just don't see myself in any of those.
Yeah. But you'd both say the observer.
That's what I would be.
No, I wouldn't say I'm an observer because I do like to chime in a lot. Not quite as much as the oversharer. I don't know. I just don't think people fit in neat categories.
Okay, fair enough. The one I struggle with is we talk to theologians here a lot, and so I've got a general knowledge. I don't go digging into commentaries beforehand or anything, but I always am scared I'm going to sound like a Bible scholar. Not that I am one, But it's like sometimes people ask questions and you know the answer and you don't want to always be actually, if you look at Luther's writings on this, it's...
When I was talking to Dr. Lutzer, he said this.
Right.
And
Well, what's wrong with being the guy that has the answer, especially if people are looking for one and then maybe someone comes up with one that is absolutely not the answer?
Well, because I think part of the journey is actually working it out. Like if somebody's always giving the answer in the group, that even if it's the right one, no one's learning anything.
Right.
Sometimes, and you talked about, you had a friend at Moody like this who liked to push the edges of theology, but I think that's how you learn.
Yeah, I think that's what he was doing.
You just test it out a little bit, see how it feels.
Try it on, see what it feels like.
Yeah.
See how it looks in the real world.
I had a friend once, we were at a Friendly's restaurant, and we were just talking about Bible things. He was a newer Christian, and he said, you know what would be really cool to drop acid and read the Bible? And I said, no.
That's not where I thought we were going.
Don't do that.
No.
But he had a background in drugs. And so
you didn't need to preface it with that.
Yeah, he went that way. And I was like, don't do that.
That may be my favorite story you've ever told.
Wow.
Unexpected twist.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be an unexpected twist this weekend at the Walkworthy Men's Conference. Would love to see you there, guys. We've got a panel discussion that I've got all ironed out. It's essentially titled, You've Got Issues. I know you do because you're a Christian. You're a human person made by God, and you're a sinner. So you've got issues in your life, specifically tied to relationships. Maybe it's in your marriage, in parenting, in work relationships, friends, neighbors, whatever. It might be enemies. We're supposed to love our enemies. How in the world do you do that? So we'll be taking anonymous questions for me to pose to the panel on your behalf.
Nice.
And we've got our speakers will all be there. Pastor Mike Frazier, Pastor Paul Cannings, Pastor Rodney Maiden will take these questions and we'll give you some solid answers to help you navigate life's complexities. I wanted to do this pretty intensely because I saw how effective it was for the women at Renew. I think we stumbled into this, as I recall.
I think so, yeah.
I don't even remember what the prompt was, but we got a deluge of women who were hurting. And it was heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
But also, at the same time, I felt blessed that women were able to get some answers to things they didn't feel comfortable asking other people about. So join us, men, for this experience. Plus, you get Chick-fil-A. I mean, come on.
And donuts.
And donut holes.
Yep. And a T-shirt.
See, look at all the things you get. And the donut hole, it's like, you're not even really having a donut. It like doesn't count. It's like...
And Moody Publishers is there, and you can get books at like 50% off or something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got big discounts. Buy your wife a book. Say thanks, you know?
Yeah, nice idea.
But don't buy her the one like How to Be a Better Wife. Don't buy that one.
No.
They don't like that, right?
No.
No, okay. I think there is.
She can get that for herself.
Right. I think Moody Publishers has things like that, but it's designed for you to get for yourself, not
yes.
for somebody else. Yeah. Okay. So would you join us? It's this Saturday, Canton Baptist Temple. Again, this Saturday, Canton Baptist Temple. Text WALK to 440-546-2255. Text WALK to 440-546-2255. You could also go to moodyconferences.com. I can't wait to see you there, guys. Coming up in a few minutes, after we pause for prayer, Joe and Cindi Ferrini with My Marriage Matters about how being very similar yet very different in your marriage relationship can be a good thing.
How would your outlook on life change if you believed that God was with you in every situation you find yourself in? I'm Darcy Harrod, and this is Pause for Prayer. This question from pastor and author J.D. Greer challenges us to examine our faith in God's presence. It's easy to trust Him when life's good, but in uncertainty, fear, suffering, we often wonder if He's really there. But Scripture reminds us over and over, He has never left us, and He never will. If we truly believed this, how differently would we live? Let's pause for prayer. Father, we confess that we don't always live as though You are with us. We let fear, doubt, and worry take over when life feels overwhelming. But Your word tells us in Deuteronomy 31:6, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." thank you for this promise. Forgive us for the times we've questioned your presence simply because we couldn't feel it. Our faith isn't based on our emotions, but on the truth of who you are. Help us to trust that no matter where we are, you are already there. Lord, reshape our outlook on life. In moments of uncertainty, remind us that you are our constant. When we walk through difficulty, let us cling to the truth that we don't walk alone. Let this assurance bring us peace, confidence, and a boldness to live with faith rather than fear. Thank you for being the God who never leaves us. May our lives reflect the confidence of those who truly believe that you are with us in every moment. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
You know, you're really not stuck, really. People think when it comes to paying for health care, they just have to kind of go along with the way it is, no matter how frustrated they are with it. But it's not true. MediShare has been a huge help to people for 30 years now. And more these days, especially, people are realizing what a great alternative it is. And the difference isn't just the savings, which are huge. It's the whole thing. You're a part of something good. It's a community of people who care for and pray for and encourage each other. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in either. You're actually sharing. And yeah, back to the savings, often up to $500 a month with MediShare. The customer service is refreshing too because they're for you. It's just a different way. And even though you might feel stuck with the frustrating status quo, it's not so. You can call them now and start saving and feeling better about how you're doing it too. Here's the number. It's 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
My annoying little brother talked way too much growing up. Now you get to listen to him instead of me.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Christian counseling for adults, couples, children, and families. North Coast Family Foundation. Being very similar, yet very different in your relationship, your marriage relationship, can be a good thing. Are you all pretty different from your spouses? Sarah and I are very different.
Yeah, I think we are.
You and Eddie are pretty similar, aren't you?
We
Lauren?
have a lot of similarities, yes.
But some key differences we've
Yes.
talked about.
Jimmy and I are very different people.
Yeah, you laughed about it at the end. That's great because it can be a good thing.
Yeah, he balances me out.
And joining us to talk about that today are our friends Joe and Cindi Ferrini. They spoke nationally for Family Life's Weekend to Remember Marriage Getaway for over 20 years. And Cindy's been doing Pause for Prayer since 1998. Welcome back, you two.
Thank you. Good morning.
How similar are you two?
Oh, goodness. Well, we're just like two peas in a pod.
You're pretty different, I'd imagine, right?
Well, we are very different. Do you want to say something first?
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
Yeah. We are different, but as we kind of go through what we want to talk about today, we'll see that sometimes the differences, as you just mentioned, can be very good, but also we have to have some really good basic goals and values underneath the whole relationship, But we made a little bit of a list of how we were different. So, Joe, why don't you go first?
Well, we realized that early in our marriage, we were quite different. I mean, I used to stay up late at night, watch TV, and then sleep in the morning.
And I was totally the opposite. Went to bed early, got up early.
How did you guys resolve that?
Well, do you know, now we are the opposite, total opposite.
Oh, wow.
It's hilarious. But, now it's a little different because we're retired, so every day is Saturday, so we can do what we want. But back in the working days, this is kind of how it was.
Yeah.
When we were first married, Sarah and I were kind of similar in that I like to stay up late and sleep in, and she was not a sleeping in kind of gal. And there were Saturdays where she woke me up. She's like, "I'm tired of waiting for you to get up. It's time to get up."
This is it. Get up. We got to make good use of our time.
That's right.
Because we don't have much of it, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
No,
we understand that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, early in our marriage, I was pretty much a straight steak and potatoes guy.
And I'm salmon and broccoli.
Yeah. And,
That's a great way to describe that.
You can put me in front of a TV anytime I see a World War II movie or a documentary on World War II. Man, I am right there.
I'll sit with you, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm only there because he has control of the remote. But we've had those discussions, and that's where we're very different. I can't even touch it. However, I prefer the Pride and Prejudice long version.
Well, there you go. I was wondering if you were like watching Beaches or The Notebook or something.
Yeah,
and
I
crying.
watched The Notebook.
Yeah, Joe watches that one.
That one's allowed.
Actually, it's been on recently, and he said there's a lot of life lessons to learn in that movie.
I just mentioned to her yesterday that the Notebook is like one of those books like you like to read over and over and over again. I think that Notebook movie is one of those movies I need to see that thing on a regular basis because it just kind of shakes me up back to reality.
The women sitting by their husbands right now are elbowing them, saying, "See, you can watch that movie and learn from it."
You can.
You just have to get through the first 5 times, and then after that, it's very easy.
That's pretty good. You guys are so different. I guess I didn't realize that. Look at that.
Yeah.
And same thing when it comes to money. I mean, I used to love to make money, and
I love spending it. So thank you.
Yeah, there you go, Cindi. Yeah, I'm all about spending
that worked out
it.
really well. And I'm one of those guys that I went to parties because I had to go to parties.
And I'm the party planner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to be right.
And so do I.
And so
that ends our list.
Well, you're so similar there at the end. You love to be right.
That's right.
Boy, that's a recipe for conflict in the first year of marriage, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes, and I think it's what's important really to know and to note is that some of these things can really ruin your marriage.
Oh yeah.
If you let those things continue on, you don't stop, and that becomes a big issue. So some of the things that we think can ruin your marriage, and we're going to say them very quickly and kind of get more into the meat of what we want to talk about, but. If we let those things ruin our marriage, we're going to be married for 5, 10, 45, 50 years, and we're just going to be miserable the whole time. And I've had people whose husbands or whose wives say, I don't really want to change, and I don't really want to like learn about that, like learn how to make life happier. And that's sad, because then you have a long marriage of unhappiness that you don't have to have. So some of the things like different backgrounds, we have different backgrounds in growing up, and that can be really a challenge for some couples. And then things like emotions, if one is really high, one is really low, one's a real drama person, I mean, that can just take a toll. And then things like irritation, but those are normal, right? Irritations that we have about each other, or just irritations in life. And then things like hurts. Of course, we've talked about how to apologize and things like that, but the other person's words or actions toward us, that can really change things, and you can let that ruin your life. Mm-hmm. Disappointments and unrealistic expectations. Hey, we all know it, right? It's a part of life. And so while we might be discouraged and sometimes we want to quit, or we say, like, how many times do we have to go through the same thing and have all these challenges? It's really hard, but those are the kinds of things, and we'll talk about them here, to really learn how to make things better in our marriage.
Yeah, I know Cindi went through that list kind of quickly, and most people can relate exactly to that. And the reality is that they just exist in our lives, and all of them exist. There are reasons why sometimes people have the potential to drift away in a marriage relationship and possibly destroy that marriage. And so we need to find a way to basically learn to adjust to each one another. And a caution to understand, I think, at this point is that if trying to sweep these things under the rug just kind of is counterproductive, and eventually problems, conflicts will develop if you continue to do that. And but again, the importance, I think, is that we need to just begin understanding why marriages fail.
Yeah,
is necessary if we want to achieve and experience oneness. And all those things that Cindi just mentioned are legitimate reasons that we hear as to why sometimes there are hindrances or reasons to drift toward isolation. So there are several things we need to learn in that respect, Cindi. So.
Well, and we'll do this. We'll get to a break and come back and go through some of those things we need to learn to do so we don't let those differences divide us. But I think we've all seen that couple that has a low level of irritation constantly towards one another. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's what any of us want. And yet if we don't do some of what you're talking about here and address these issues, that's what we could all end up like. So it's 6:45 on WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Joe and Cindi Ferrini with My Marriage Matters on right now. And when we come back from this break, we'll look at how we can learn to not let those differences wreck our marriages.
Heritage Classical Academy is a classical Christian school with campuses in Peninsula and Pepper Pike. They offer preschool through 12th grade at their school in Northeast Ohio. Learn how Heritage partners with families to prepare our children to winsomely engage the world for the cause of Christ as we cultivate wisdom, virtue, and Christ-likeness. Visit our website to register for preview days on February 27, March 4, or March 6, or sign up for an individual tour at heritageclassicalacademy.org.
Poverty is one of the most urgent challenges of our time. Over 700 million people around the world live in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2.15 per day. World Vision is tackling the root causes of poverty by partnering with communities to implement sustainable solutions like access to clean water, healthcare, and nutritious food, so every child can grow into who God meant them to be. You can be part of showing Jesus love and bringing hope for the future. Visit worldvision.org/radio to get started. Ever wondered if there's a way for Christians to meet their healthcare costs affordably and efficiently? A biblical lifestyle alternative to traditional healthcare options? The answer is Christian Healthcare Ministries. They've enabled believers to live out their faith while embracing a voluntary health cost ministry for over 40 years. It all starts with a visit to chministries.org/Moody to see how CHM meets values and healthcare costs. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
Hi, I'm Donna Leland of Today in the Word. You often hear us say that the gospel changes everything. It's true, but sharing that gospel over Moody Radio also comes with a price tag. This ministry just plain costs a lot, and that's what our upcoming share event is all about. Your pre-share gift will help us start our event on March 11th in the best possible position. We'll say thanks by sending you a copy of the powerful new book, Killing Sin.
Learn more at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Walkworthy Men's Conference coming up this Saturday at Canton Baptist Temple. You're listening to WCRF and Mornings with Brian. Text the word WALK to get your tickets. Would love to see you there. Text WALK to 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. Having a great talk with our friends Joe and Cindi Ferrini with My Marriage Matters. They've been chatting about how you don't want to let differences between the two of you ruin your marriage or run your marriage for that part. Things like different backgrounds, emotions, irritations, hurts, disappointments, habits. And as you mentioned before the break, there's things we have to learn how to do. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And I think all the things that you listed here that we talked about, if you don't learn to deal with some of these things, you're going to have fights, you're going to have conflicts, you're going to have frustration a lot of the time. So the first thing I would say is, you want to learn to adjust. And I think that is very different than saying you have to change. I think there's ways that we can make adjustments. And I'm going to bring in the second point that I want to make and give you an example. The other thing is we have to respect each other's differences and really interests too. So we just were talking to some friends that are a little bit older than us, and they have always been in boating. And so the husband always was on the water as a young man, and when he got married, he really wanted for his wife to enjoy that too. But she did not like if it was raining or if it was cold. And
Yeah,
so
smart woman.
They had, yeah.
That's right.
And so someone outside of, that was just around them one day said to her, "How is it that your husband got you to like and want to be on the boat?" And she said, "He understands that I like to be warm and dry." And so he built this enclosure around the cockpit of the boat so that if it was raining or cold, she could be inside of that and with him. And so we just had some conversation about that. And I said, that is it takes work, okay, to do that. But if you want to be together, what are the things that you're willing to do to work at your marriage so that you can have that time together to respect one another, to enjoy each other's company? And so they've been doing this for over 60 years they've been married. And so, what are the things in your marriage, to the listener and to each of us, what are the things in your marriage that you can do that would make a difference, that shows that you respect the differences of the other person, and that also you would help with their interests? Because this woman loves boating now, but that's because the husband cultivated that as well.
Yeah, Sarah and I both like watching movies, and we like watching really, really great storytelling in the form of television, but we have very different interests. It took a long time to find the common ground where we could find genres we like together, because it's just torture to sit through something that you're not interested in watching. I mean, my wife would get all this anxiety watching space shows. She just doesn't like watching outer space shows, and I love them. So,
Sure.
What
So
do you do?
can you say, can you nail down the genre or the things that you enjoy together?
We like, I would say, mystery, thriller, and we also like just really great storytelling, whatever the genre would be, as long as it's not in outer space and there's not too much love in it for me.
There you go.
Well, those are good, and those become good boundaries, don't they?
Yeah, no, and it works. It took a while, but it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, you can watch a trailer or read the summary and get a little bit of an idea. And let me add one thing here, and this is not something we've necessarily done just as a couple, but really with our whole family. If we're watching something and we're like, what's the point? What is the topic here? It might be a movie, but where are we going with it? We have permission as a whole group to say, let's just turn that off because it's a waste of time. And we've done that even at the theater or other places, because we just sometimes say, either I don't care for that, or I don't appreciate the, maybe swearing or something that's in it, and you just say that I'm not going to watch that, and so you make your rules. And then when they have something that's on that you don't like, as a group, we just say, we're done with that. We're done. And then we can move on and do something that we do enjoy, and not just sit there and be, frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, I remember walking out of a theater because I was thinking, this is not appropriate for me and my wife to be watching at this point. And again, as Cindy's been saying here, I think one of the first steps towards building harmony in our marriage is just a willingness to respect the personality and the interests of your spouse. And, the sooner you learn those things, and things like, the 5 love languages. I mean, does everybody know what their spouse's love language is? If not, hey, that would be a good thing to start doing this weekend. But I think the next crucial thing to do in your marriage is just to learn what are the common values that you have in your marriage, and then build upon those values. And that's not something that's created as a result of you watching TV, but there should be a core common values that you can both agree to, and move towards solidifying those values by watching good things.
Yes, absolutely. And along with that too, just other frustrations that you might have in your life, like figure out the dance of it. We often talk about the leader of the family and then the follower, as we have those roles in our marriage. Right. And if we if we aren't looking for how we can better the dance in our marriage, we're going to have problems. And you know, when you watch, as we have said before, if you watch Dancing with the Stars and you see them come out and learn a dance, like they're stepping on each other's toes, they're falling all over the place, they're just not doing very good. Sometimes they really do literally fall. And by the time you see them at the final thing with their final dance, you know, man, they look good. But they've worked at it. They've worked at those fine tunings of the little steps that you have to learn along the way. So what are those in your marriage? Like, figure those out and realize you're going to step on each other's toes for a while. But that's okay because you're still learning.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just really important to realize and come to the resolve that, you know, differences are a part of God's plan for our marriage. And the key is to make our differences really an asset rather than a liability, and to make our differences work for us rather than against us. And at the end of the day, I think a little laughter, you know, some work of trying to understand each other carries a lot of weight towards moving towards oneness.
You know, we had a question come in, if you have a quick moment here.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Somebody said they're wondering if you could give some insight into what to look for when searching for a marriage counselor. How can they tell if a therapist is good for couples or not? And because I know that's where this is headed, right? Where if some of these things can't be worked out, you need to get some help.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I would say and many counselors will do this, where you go in for like a free consultation. And, you know, every counselor is not the same. And so, and we have actually known some counselors who claimed to be marriage counselors, but like after 3 visits, they think, yeah, you know, you should just end this marriage because I don't know. Yeah. I'm not kidding, because that is true. And I won't go into all of it, but this counselor had a couple of divorces in their background. And I'm like, I don't know if this is the person you want to go to actually for your marriage. And so I would ask the counselor, I would ask them questions. What's your, the main thing that you like to counsel? And maybe it's families with children who are having struggles. Maybe it's marriage. Maybe it's addictions. So I would go and interview that counselor. And if this person who's asked the question, if they have a question, they can go to our website at joeferrini.com or cindyferrini.com and make contact with us. We'd be happy to fill them in a little bit more fully on this endeavor. And also on our website, we also have, under the marriage tab, ways and to look for a counselor and what to look for.
Yeah, and I would just add, Brian, that when you're looking for a counselor, you want to find a counselor who has common values that you have as well. And I just mentioned that that's so important to have those common values in your marriage relationship. But as you're looking to expand into engaging with a counselor, that counselor had better have some similar values that you have. And that counselor that Cindy's referring to, after 3 encounters, she's recommending a divorce. I've seen it after 1 encounter, recommending a divorce.
Yeah.
And so that's not somebody you want to go to.
Yeah, and that's not really working on your differences at all. That's just throwing in the towel, which is one of our points, is don't give up. Don't give up. There's things you can work on. We did those marriage Weekend to Remembers for 20 years. The things that we saw when people started getting tools in their toolbox to learn how to do things in their marriage and make things right in their marriage, it was astounding to see the goodness that came out of it. And did it work for every couple? No, but it worked for many couples, and I think that's really important. And I think, we give up too soon sometimes. And some of the struggles that we have in our marriage, they will pass. Some of them are things with our children or things that happen maybe more early on in marriage rather than later on. So a lot of those things, they have a season, if you will. And sometimes we have to work through those seasons. I'm not talking about abuse and things like that. I'm talking about simple disagreements, simple differences that we have, those kinds of things. And I think we also have to watch for God to show up. Where is he showing up in our marriage? Maybe even make some records of it in terms of writing things down, because when we see victories in those challenges that we have, I think it can be really, like the cherry on top of an ice cream sundae.
Very good. We've been having a great discussion this morning with our friends Joe and Cindy Ferrini with My Marriage Matters. Time sure flew by. Thanks for your help with that question as well. If folks want to connect, can you remind them again how to find you and get that information about finding a counselor?
Yes. What I'm going to do is my web guy, Kevin, and Ron will get me this audio. That will be on in the next, either today or tomorrow. I will also put, in the very, very near future, today or tomorrow, I'll put that link for finding a counselor so they can be watching on My Marriage Matters on Facebook. And once I do that, Brian, I can send it to you also, if that would be helpful.
That'd be great. Sure. Yeah. Thank you both very much. Can't wait to have you back again soon. Thanks for a great topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
You too. All I could add to those looking for a counselor, they shared perfect things. I would say that there's a lot of evidence-based counseling out there. Counseling is not just lay on the couch and share your feelings. And it takes some education and training. Look at a counselor's credentials. Doesn't have to be licensure, but it could be. MFT, Marriage and Family Therapist, is a suffix that will go on to someone's name if they had that specific training. Sarah, and my marriage counselor, is an MFT. But others may just have some good educational credentials that show they actually know the evidence and the psychology to help you. So that's my recommendation. There you go. 7:03, time to get to Ron's news. And then we're going to chat a little bit about the way the internet works today and how there's danger in falling victim to that pattern.
It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Christian counseling for adults, couples, children, and families. North Coast Family Foundation. WCRF, Cleveland. WVMS, Sandusky. WVML, Millersburg. WVMN, Newcastle. WVME, Meadville. WVMU, Ashtabula. And with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Today marks 3 years since Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It's 7:04. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The nation has been heavily dependent on U.S. military aid in resisting Moscow, but that aid may be gone under the Trump administration, and its soldiers face exhaustion. Russia controls about 20% of Ukraine's territory at the cost of hundreds of thousands killed and wounded. Officials say that what they are describing as a cyber incident will have the Cleveland Municipal Court closed today. The incident happened last night, and authorities are working to fully learn its nature and scope. And Cedar Point has released its newest attractions. Siren's Curse will debut this summer as the longest, fastest, and tallest tilt roller coaster in North America. Other additions will include a Famous Dave's restaurant, new live entertainment shows, and 2 Cedar Point Shores slides. In sports, the Cavaliers tamed the Grizzlies 129-123, and the Penguins were outgunned by the Rangers 5-3. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Partly sunny, breezy, and warmer with highs today in the upper 40s. At last check, mostly cloudy, 37 in Cleveland, 34 Akron and Canton, 35 in Lorain and Elyria.
It's time for your moron moment.
America Saves Week, which takes place the last week of February, is an annual rallying cry for average Americans to engage in a successful savings plan. We suggest you complete a budget, which will then help you to gain a clearer picture of your resources, set saving objectives, and devise a plan to attain them. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:06. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland.
Be careful who you pretend to be. There's consequences to that. That's a warning from Christianity Today, and we'll get more into that in just a moment. But I do have to remind you that Walkworthy's coming up on Saturday. I can't wait. Ron's going to be there.
Yeah. I'm confident that the creek won't rise, so I will be going.
Are you dusting off the corduroy sport coat with the patches on the elbows? Are you doing?
I'll get to it. I like it to build up a good amount of dust in between Walkworthy's.
Yeah, I'm already a little anxious about picking that out because it becomes a thing.
Well, I won't be there, so you don't have to worry too much.
I guess that's true.
I'm the only one that judges you, so.
I mean, yeah, guys really don't
About
care.
your outfits, yes.
I bet there's 0 men who we had 1,000 guys there last year. 0 of them remember what I wore. 0.
I wouldn't say 0.
Really? You think there's guys that are like taking notes?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think so. If you remember what I wore last year, 440-546-2255. Let me know, because I don't even know. I don't roll your eyes.
I don't know. I'm trying to think back in my head. I don't recall.
But it doesn't matter. You can dress down, dress up, whatever you want to do. You be you, and we'll see you at the Walkworthy Men's Conference, Canton Baptist Temple, featuring Pastor Mike Frazier, Pastor Rodney Maiden, Pastor Paul Cannings. We're going to do a panel discussion where you can anonymously, or not if you choose, submit your questions on the theme to this panel of all of our speakers sitting down, and I'll ask them your questions for you, of you got issues. That's what I'm calling it. You've got issues, how to navigate.
I've got issues. How about you? We've got issues.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if we're all honest, we got issues, but a lot of times we just don't have that person in our lives that we can talk to about it. Maybe the person that you want to talk to about it's the person that the problem is.
That could happen.
So you can submit those. We'd love to help you out. We'll sort through them, and I can almost guarantee that the question you ask will touch someone else's soul. Okay? So text WALK to 440-546-2255. Are any of you on Twitter anymore, X? I don't even like calling it X.
No. Became a scary place many years ago.
Never got on it.
There's still a lot of, from my podcast listening, a lot of Christian influencers who feel like they have to be there.
Yes.
You don't.
To just know what's happening.
That's what they say.
But there was a lady on there.
I'll go back and forth all the time.
What?
Oh, this happened on Twitter, or this happened on Twitter.
Yeah, like Russell Moore, Christianity Today, is one of the people that is just kind of watching what's going on. And he made the statement that Christian Twitter was all a flutter.
Oh.
I said it that way. I thought that was pretty good, actually. I just made that up. But it was all about this lady named Patriarchy Hannah.
Oh, yes, I heard that.
Patriarchy Hannah. So she joined Twitter, X or whatever it's called, in 2021, amassed 27,000 followers.
Wow.
Now, that's not huge, but it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So she's an influencer of some sort at 27,000. My kids would be like, "Oh, you need 1 billion first, and then then you're influencer."
Not 1 million, 1 billion.
Yeah. So she's married to Tony, mother of 14. Some of which
I think you were going to say that.
No, it's mother of 14. Some of which she fosters and adopted, and she does various types of posts that get her all these followers. Things like funny comments her kids make. We get a lot of Trey comments all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're warming up to more Ellis comments.
Yeah, he's getting there.
It's coming there. That's Lauren's kids, for those who don't know. And controversial takes endorsing the patriarchy.
So,
okay.
In essence, she's a trad wife. She bills herself as a trad wife.
Yeah, and help somebody understand what this is, ladies. You could probably describe.
Yeah, a traditional wife.
It's like a caricature of a traditional wife.
Right.
It's like taking pieces from like the 50s, super feminine, pulling from a time period that really did not exist.
Yeah, so like, for example, she advised people to accept whatever their husband said, even if they have theological differences. She said having children was not an excuse to gain weight. And
oh my God.
And defended her husband's expectations that she stay a certain weight. Just gonna, yeah. Let that silence speak volumes, okay? Another post questioned the masculinity of any man who isn't capable of violence.
Can you say that again?
Another post questioned the masculinity of any man who isn't capable of violence.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Here's the catch, though. Here's the problem. She's not real.
Is that a real person?
No.
With statements like that, you have to assume that it's just rage bait.
Mm-hmm. This is...
Did she ever post pictures of her family or anything?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know somebody did some sleuthing, figured this out, exposed it. She's posted multiple apologies. Turns out she's actually a woman named Jennifer Bays who is single and has no children.
It's just an elaborate troll.
Isn't that wild?
Why? Why would someone do that?
Why would you say statements like that? Like trying to build a platform around that? Like that's.
Well, what's your take? Why would someone do this?
I mean, it worked, obviously.
Yeah. There are platforms for people that just say outrageous things that they don't believe in, and that just makes people mad, and they amass followings, and they get money and they make a living like that.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question is, who wants to like not be themselves and get followers? Because she's not presenting anything about her life, so why get followers doing that? But to get money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got to be partially money. In fact,
Right.
some people sent her gifts, and now there's concerns about people's like home addresses being at some
Random lady's house.
A scammer, basically. Although the person claims that her and some friends made this up years ago, and she just kept it going, and they just thought it was funny at first. It was going to be a joke, and then they just like kept going. And now Jennifer Bays is actually patriarchy Hannah, and she has no kids and is not married at all. Tony's not a real person. So what do we do with this? Well, Russell Moore says, be careful who you pretend to be. And he thinks there's theological implications to that. And we're going to get to more details on that here in just a moment.
Moody Radio Cleveland is on the air thanks to supportive listeners and Naylor Nutrilon and Landscape, serving the greater Cleveland area since 1973. More information about Naylor Nutrilon and Landscape is at nnlawn.com.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you. They encourage you, and it's proven, too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE. 833-59-SHARE.
Pour another cup of coffee and settle in for engaging, Christ-centered conversations. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Be careful who you pretend to be is a warning from Christianity Today in light of a very famous Twitter personality in Christian Twitter. I'm going to say Twitter because I hate the word X. I can't do it.
That's
so
okay.
It's Patriarchy Hannah. She had all these followers. She said she had 14 kids. Her husband, she was all about trad wife stuff, being like that fictitious 1950s wife.
Mm-hmm.
But even more, it's almost abusive in a sense, like submitting to abuse. And it turns out it's not true. She's single and no kids. And she was kind of exposed. So you all had some extreme feelings about this. Like, what's the consequence just in life for something like this happening?
Well, I think posting those things, and obviously she got a following, which means the majority of them are people that liked the things that were being posted.
Yeah.
Some were probably there just to watch what was going on, not necessarily because they agree. But I think a lot of them are probably people that agree. And for the people that do agree with those things that are, number one, not biblical, and number two, bordering on the line of abuse, could then say, look, there's other people out there that do this too to their wives. There's these wives that think that this is okay. Why don't you think this is okay? You need to lose weight. How dare you gain weight having children? And they start to emotionally abuse their wives because someone else did it. Some other wife is okay with it, but it's a fake person.
Yes,
but they're
not
using
real.
it in their real life to their real spouse.
And so this quote unquote funny fake thing she was doing ends up causing abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely could.
Yeah, and I don't know in what ideological world it makes sense to get mad at your wife for gaining weight while having a child. And yet people will see this and go, wow, I guess this is a thing.
I mean, we don't even need to analyze it because it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've heard multiple pastors at times say things like that with the, women. Well, you got to keep up your appearances. Make sure you use a little makeup and lose a little weight. And it's like, I get the point of it, but it really should come from another woman.
Yeah.
I just don't like a man telling women, well, you've got to meet this ideal of our culture.
Yeah. It's gross. But now, okay, so Christianity Today talks about the idea that we have to understand we live in an attention economy. Attention economy.
Yeah.
How would you interpret that? I wasn't given a good definition.
I mean, everything is just, everyone is vying for our attention. They get, validation, they get money from our eyes and our brains being focused on them for even just a few fractions of a second.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a minute and under. On places like TikTok, if you watch the video for a minute or even 30 seconds, they get paid.
Yeah, I was looking at a video just the other day where all the comments were about, hey, actually, you stole this. This is somebody else.
Yeah.
You're stealing someone else's viral content to get attention to make money.
Yeah, that's a really big problem.
Mm-hmm.
So in our online economy, to make money, you have to get attention. And so what that creates is, sounds so like nerdy, but extremism inflation.
So people are being crazy to make money.
Yeah, they're becoming an extreme version of themselves.
Yeah.
Like they know just regular old me and my regular ideas.
So then regular extreme has gone out the window and now it's extra extreme because everyone's trying to outdo each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And what this says here is that pretending to be extreme will eventually make the typical person into an extremist, according to one psychologist. Pretending to see compassion as toxic or fidelity as weakness will eventually lead to an inner life of cruelty and coarseness that matches the outer show. So the longer you portray a persona of extremism, and they may be your like light ideas, but you turn them up to 11.
Yeah.
You'll actually train yourself to become that person.
Well, you see it with like actors a lot of the time.
I wondered
that
if
they spend a lot of time in a very odd character. We saw it with Heath Ledger.
Yes.
He had a lot of odd characters that the character's inner world was not all mentally there. And then they get stuck there.
And that's what people thought happened to Heath Ledger, which, by the way, he played in the Batman series with Christian Bale. He played Joker, and probably the best one ever. I mean, it was an incredible performance, but he was a method actor.
And a very unhinged Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes, and method actors like become someone. They
Yeah.
don't pretend to be someone.
It's like even in their private life, they're acting like that character
Yeah.
so they can fully channel it.
Or like in their trailer when they're like on breaks, they're still in character.
I've heard Joaquin Phoenix does that too. Is that accurate?
I hadn't heard that.
Nicolas Cage.
Sure. And when you talk to other actors, they're all like, wow, okay, dude, that's weird. Like they make you call them a different name.
Yeah.
Like the
And
character name.
Heath Ledger, I'm pretty sure he was in the midst of one movie when he died, and the movie that he was working on was really weird too. The character he was playing, it ended up they had to like bring in other actors, and all of a sudden this character changes throughout time. They like change the story, but it was a weird character.
You see a lot of celebrities that don't seem to know who they are.
Yeah.
Because they spend so much time pretending to be something.
So what do you make of this? Do we subscribe to this then? Are we saying that, yes, it is true, if you become an extreme version of yourself online, you can slowly become that person?
You can absolutely train your brain. I mean, you have to come up with some reason you believe, just for example, that it's okay for a man to hit his wife. You have to, quote unquote, justify that in your mind so that you can parrot the script that you have written. At some point, if you do that enough, you're going to dig little grooves in your brain that say this is okay, and you're actually going to believe that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't know how you guys would feel about it. I find this pretty compelling. Like, think about it in a lighter sense where somebody becomes the critique of the other political party, whatever that is. Like that becomes their online persona. And so slowly over time, they're becoming more and more critical. And suddenly they've gone from, I disagree with those folks to I hate them. And I just see how this really does breed extremism. So where are we headed? This is scary. The only way we live in an attention economy that demands extremism inflation to get attention and make money. And that is actually toxic to you psychologically.
We have to be the grown-ups in our own world that tell ourselves, put that phone down. Quit doom scrolling or droom scrolling, if that's the word.
Both are bad.
Yeah. and set it aside and keep your mind focused IRL in the real life.
In real life.
Wow, I had to really think about that. I'm not good at those texting acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the points he made was that we have this tendency, and this is Russell Moore, we have a tendency in the Christian faith to want to do this. Like we know what Christians are supposed to do, quote unquote, supposed to do. And so we create extremism versions of ourselves in the Christian faith, but that doesn't lead you closer to Christ. And so he says that following this pattern of society is actually sending the wrong message to believers. Because truly, inner transformation is how you become closer to Christ. But it seems as though we're supposed to do the outward expression of it. What do you think of that point? This was his twist, but for Christians, this doesn't work. We think it works. You go to church every week, you read your Bible every day, you do all the things, and that won't make you more like Jesus.
Yeah, just doing the right thing doesn't make you more like Jesus.
There's a lot of non-believers that do, quote unquote, the right thing.
But we see this in the church all the time. This is where we get into legalism, right? It seems right
Yeah,
to
the Pharisees
make
did all the
rules.
right thing.
Exactly. And they prided themselves in that.
Right.
They knew the law better than anybody else.
And Jesus got really mad at them because they were missing the point. So how do we protect ourselves from both online extremism inflation and spiritual?
I think we need to be careful with what we're consuming, not just what we're putting out there, but what you're consuming has the ability to shape the way you think as well. And I think this is just a lesson for all of us to take breaks, lengthy breaks from online content, because it does have a tendency to whip people into a frenzy and just kind of, make things more extreme.
Yeah, well said. It's 7:31. We're up against a break. But yeah, I would say be aware of this. Maybe even do a soul check and even look back at your social media feed and see if somehow you've seen your own drift into extremism, because that's how you get attention. That's not how believers do it. It's not how we do it. 7:32 WCRF.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from North Coast Family Foundation, giving hope to those struggling with depression, anxiety, and trauma through Christian counseling. More information is at northcoastfamily.com. That's northcoastfamily.com. I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly. That's a beautiful and compelling promise from Jesus. But what does it mean? In a world that feels like life is losing its value, its meaning, and its purpose, can we really live abundantly? Yes. In just a few minutes each day, you can join a growing community of believers who are gathering around CareNet's devotional, 365 Days of Pro-Abundant Life. This free, easy-to-follow devotional arrives in your inbox daily and invites you to grow in your faith, understand the sanctity of life from conception, and be inspired by Christ's abundant promises. You'll find biblical wisdom, inspiring stories from the front lines of pro-abundant life ministry, and the empowering message of the gospel. Make 2025 the year you begin your pro-abundant life journey. Discover hope, deepen your faith, and become a champion of life. Access your free devotional, 365 Days of Pro-Abundant Life at care-net.org/Moody. care-net.org/Moody.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Walk worthy, stand tall and strong, and united where faith belongs. Embrace your calling, hear God's voice. In Christ, make your heart rejoice.
Yeah, we want to hear your reflections from Walk Worthy.
Wanted to share a testimony about how God reconciled my wife and I after being apart for nearly 6 months. During that time, I had the opportunity to attend the Walk Worthy Men's Conference in Cleveland, Ohio, and hear from amazing speakers, including Dr. Mark Jobe, And it was his message, in addition to another number of other ones that really spoke to me. And just hearing God's voice saying that I've still called you to be married and that I have established your marriage. And so throughout the entire 6 months, there were points where my wife sent me official papers to separate and a number of other things. But just continue trusting in God and believing what he said, that he has the final say over every matter. And so this past July, God ended up reconciling my wife and I. And so we've been back together since then.
What a story. I know you might think, well, what a beautiful exception. No.
No.
Every year. And Walk Worthy Men's Conference, again, this is Mornings with Brian, WCRF, has been going since the early 1990s.
Yep.
And so what we end up getting is not only do we hear stories of transformation like that, but we hear it from the beginning to the end, as in we meet a guy or see a guy who obviously has been moved by something that's taken place and might say something. Like there was one guy who came up to us and said, yeah, I'm convicted. I'm living with my girlfriend. Like we got to get married. This is just, I can't keep doing this. Saw him the next year. Guess what, guys? Got married.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the type of story God's going to write in somebody's life, maybe your life, if you're a part of our Walk Worthy Men's Conference. Ron and I are there to kind of help guide you through the day.
Right.
But really, my prayer for you is that you'd open your heart to what the Lord would have for you. Because between Pastor Paul Cannings, Pastor Mike Frazier, and Pastor Rodney Maiden, something you're going to hear is going to help you grow closer to Jesus. Maybe it's going to help repair your marriage, change the way you parent, change the way that you represent the Lord at work, or your attitude maybe, or whatever it might be, or maybe even will help you come to some sort of resolution about who you are as a man of God.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you feel tension about that. This is the event for you. In fact, I finally refined the panel discussion we're going to have. So as part of the day, well, I think it's the third thing we do right after lunch. We bring up all three speakers, Pastor Paul Cannings, Pastor Mike Frazier, Pastor Rodney Maiden, and then I'll be up there with them. You know, I'm just like the jester, essentially. And we'll have reminded you about the topic all throughout the morning, and then I'll just have received a bunch of your questions, and I'll ask them for you. But here's the theme of the panel discussion. You've got issues. Intended to be funny, but also true. Grappling with life's relationship challenges as a man of God. I know you're struggling in some area relationally in your life. Why?
Sure.
Because everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's with a kid, a spouse, a coworker, a friend, there's some sort of relationship struggle that you've got. Maybe you feel at an impasse, like that gentleman did we just listened to, and his marriage. This is your chance to ask that raw question anonymously. I'm not going to go like, all right, we've got Jim. Jim, stand up. Yep. Raise your hand. There he is right there. He's got a question about his wife, driving him crazy.
Jim's got marriage problems.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that to you. We would never do that to you.
No way.
If you want your name said, go ahead. But if you want to be anonymous too, I'll be the one to ask your question.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask silly questions all the time so people can laugh at me. But nobody will laugh because quite frankly, when you ask your question, you're asking a question for about 20 other people.
Right. And a lot more than that either have been through it or will be going through it. So it's helpful to everybody in the room.
Yeah. And I'll just never forget. I was passionate about doing this year because of our experience with Renew. I think I was sitting by you, Lauren, when we were looking at it's a texting software that sends in anonymous questions. And there was like a deluge. You remember this?
Yes. It was tons of questions of our theme for Renew was comparing yourself to other women in different seasons of life, or why hasn't God given me this thing yet, or why hasn't God allowed me to get married, or why hasn't God given me this job that I've been asking for, that this woman that I know has. And it was just flooded with questions because it's a constant struggle for women of comparing ourselves.
Yeah, and it was I was equal parts relieved that they felt safe asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And heartbroken. Because even though I know we all want community where we can be honest about our struggles, I think that's one of the battles in the American church today is creating an environment where people feel safe sharing their pain.
Yeah, we walk around with a backpack of rocks of hurt, and we never take them to church and unload the rocks with those that we're supposed to. And at Renew, we did. And I'm hoping and praying the same thing for at Walk Worthy.
Yeah, I really want that. And if I need to launch into my own pain and struggle, I will. I do it on the air all the time. Because, guys, I want you to get help. I mean, it wasn't until my wife and I reached out for help that we were able to actually begin to repair in a godly way what we were struggling with. And I don't know how many times as a dad I've reached out to a couple of buddies of mine and been like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Help me. And then I soon find out I'm not alone. And even just that fact, finding out you're not alone in your struggle, can be enough to let you get through it. Because you realize it's not your fault, you know? Or maybe it is, like you contribute to it, but like it's a human experience to go through relational struggle. Mm-hmm. So I'm prayerful that you'll be the guy that has the courage to text in that question. Mm-hmm. And again, it's anonymous. We're not going to go find you. That's not what it's about. And so if you're a guy who's like, I don't know, I'm just in too much pain to go listen to something. Like, no, come. Ask your question. Soak it up. Sit in the back if you want. I actually like at portions of the event to go, it takes a while, but walk all the way to the back and sit in the back and soak it in. There's no bad seat at Canton Baptist Temple.
Yeah, even the balcony has great view.
And they've been smart to like get the TV screens. There's the cameras. So you really can see if you're pretty far back. And they got the speakers far back, so you're not like straight. What was that? So check it out, guys. We'd love to see you there. It's this Saturday.
Yep.
This one. So procrastinating Pat, you've made it.
It's time.
So let's go. Text the word walk to 440-546-2255. Text walk to 440-546-2255. Get your ticket. Remember, there's individual registrations that if you come in person, you get your T-shirt, you get the lunch, you get donuts, donut holes. And there's so many donuts. It's really a little overwhelming, actually. So come on, guys. Join
you can
us.
have 2 donuts.
And like probably 6 donut holes because those don't even count, right?
They don't count.
They're negative donuts.
Yeah, it's the space in a donut. How could that be anything that's a calorie or something? Come on.
Yeah.
So check it out, guys. We'd love to see you there. And there's also, by the way, individual online registrations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't want to, you can't drive that far, you're shut in or whatever it is. And then maybe you've got a men's group that's a ways out, or even you got a relative out some other state that's been looking for something like this. Mm-hmm. We have what we call it a site license. Is that what we call it? Or
a live stream registration.
Yeah, like it's like a group live stream.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can gather a group of men from your church that may be too far away to go or for whatever reason can't. You can gather in that space and be a part of it together in your own community. And I know of churches doing that now. In fact, our engineers church did it last year.
Yeah, I saw a group. I was looking at our registration, and I kept seeing the same town over and over and over again. I'm not kidding. It was probably 40 names. And they're just registered as a group, not for the live stream, but to come together. You can do that too and get a big discount.
Yeah, it really is. And I think my church is actually
doing a live stream.
Yeah, someone asked me if I was going to be at the church for the event. I was like, no, no, they're having me go all the way.
Gotta
to
go
Canton.
live. Yeah.
So, guys, get your ticket. It's this Saturday, Canton Baptist Temple. Text walk to 440-546-2255, or just go to moodyconferences.com.
And I have a tough job. I have 30 seconds to tell you about the most beautiful Jesus-shaped thing I've ever seen in my life, and now more like 22 seconds, but it's Cure International Children's Hospitals. They do surgeries by the thousands every year, all in the name of Jesus. Tens of thousands become Christians every year in these hospitals. Imagine proclaiming the kingdom and healing the sick. It's that good. Check it out. There's nothing like it. More people need to know about this. It's cure.org/Moody, cure.org/Moody.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. and now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland. 6 to 9 a.m. Weekdays on 3.3.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Dear,
It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast.
Hey. It's our turn.
hey.
Hang on there, V.
Yeah, in fact, it's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Whether it's your faith or your health, you don't have to journey alone. So, dear Annie, how do I deal with a toxic coworker? Is the letter in Cleveland.com.
I wrote this in.
About which one of us?
Just kidding.
You beat me to it.
Yeah.
I was going to be like, wow, this is like,
Dear
this is a
Annie.
fake article from Lauren about me. No, so this person wrote, usually these are one paragraph. This was like 16,000 paragraphs.
Oh my goodness. What's the highlight problem?
So the gist is, lady's working at this office and she's part-time with like a full-time administrative assistant.
Okay.
Administrative assistant is friends with the boss.
Okay.
Administrative assistant is toxic. Really not doing anything, assigning all the actual work to her, to this other lady who's writing in. while the administrative assistant is like on the phone, online shopping,
oh my,
doing all these things. And then like one time,
Is administrative assistant her boss?
No.
No. Okay.
No, they both report to this other person.
Okay.
And there was even one time where she was like listening to a friend doing a live stream while doing some work. And somebody came to the door. She gets up, puts her headphones down, gets up, answers the door, comes back, headphones smashed, like demolished.
Administrative assistant smashed her headphone?
Yeah, but was like, oh, I didn't do that. What do you mean? It just must have broken. I mean, but it obviously was like smashed.
Even if it was an accident, she dropped something on it or something.
Yeah. So she's like, what do I do? Like, this person is friends with the boss. They lie. They make my life miserable. What do you do?
I mean, if you have a company that's sizable enough to have an HR, that would be my first stop. Let them deal with it. Make sure you have documentation of everything that's happened. If it's a smaller company and you don't have an HR department, unfortunately, because this problem person is good friends with the boss, I personally don't see another option other than try to either keep your head down or get another job.
Yeah, and my dad worked in HR for like 30 years, and he would just always just tell me, document. And at first I was like, what do you mean, document? Like save emails? Yeah, but also, it's like a little journal.
On this date, at this time.
At this time, Lauren said this.
Yeah.
But and it would be like, great job, guys, is what she would say. And that's nothing to document, but you keep a record of these types of things. I would say you ought to try talking to the boss privately, right?
The thing that I worry about there is it's obviously going to go from boss to administrative assistant, that they will have a conversation. And then administrative assistant becomes, more likely than not, becomes even more toxic.
Oh, probably if they're smashing headphones.
Yeah.
You don't want to provoke them.
So I'd be worried about that, but that's your option. You either go to him, you put your head down and take it, or you go get another job.
Yeah, and that's where one of my questions is like, why are you so attached to this job? Like at some point, you just go like, I'm out. It's crazy.
Yeah, but maybe other than that, she likes the job. She likes the rest of the people she works with. She makes good money. The hours fit well with her schedule. There could be a lot of things that, she doesn't want to go sign up for a job that she doesn't know who she's going to be working with, and maybe the hours are not as good for her, or the pay not as good.
Yeah, and I mean, Annie gave similar advice at Cleveland.com. It was like, go to HR, like Daria said, document. But this person gives so much detail. It's like, it's too late. It's not going to change. You kidding me? There are so many places where you could do all those things, make yourself more miserable for 6 months. And then what? Now you're more miserable and you have to quit.
Yeah, I think it's okay to have a conversation with that person too. At least try.
You would be good at that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't know if you would like it.
No, I wouldn't like it.
Someone like me, I struggle to be direct when it's something like that because I get really anxious and it's like, but you'd be like, excuse me, you smashed my headphones. That's not appropriate.
Not to say it like that.
I think if I'm not opposed to having a conversation with the person, but I think if we're at the point where they are more than likely intentionally smashing other people's things, I think we're too far gone for a conversation. If it was like, intentional, just a little, or unintentional, a little bit thoughtless, I think that person, we can maybe work with them, reason with them. But at this point, especially if the boss isn't going to step in, which I've seen situations like this, I doubt they would. I really don't think there's anything you can do other than leave or just resign yourself to this.
I think one thing that I could see Lauren doing would be at your yearly review, assuming you have one, most companies do, you go in and you state, I'm doing this, this, and this. And he might say, oh, no, administrative assistant girl does this and this. And you'd be like, no, she doesn't. She passes all that on to me. And since I'm doing all this work, I deserve either a new title or a new pay scale or both.
Or give it back to administrative assistant. And I'm not doing that anymore.
Wow. Okay, so you're saying this person should be like, excuse me, you've given me all these tasks. I'm not doing X, Y, and Z anymore.
Not Yeah, and if they're not a part of my job description or something the boss has discussed with me, my boss, no.
Yeah. I'm not sure the structure there either. If both ladies report to the boss, and yet administrative assistant feels she can delegate her work to the other girl, how that works out.
How do you know it's time to just throw in the towel and quit?
If you're writing into cleveland.com, it's time to go.
You are clearly beyond miserable.
It's time to go.
But a lot of believers would be scared, right? You want to provide for your own family. You want to.
Yeah. You're not gonna leave without a job.
Yeah,
or
we're
something
not
in line.
saying just walk in, I quit, walk out the door with no backup plan.
So start looking.
Yeah, this might be a 6-month process, but be open to it and realize that. I mean, even if it pays well, unless your family is in dire straits and you know you will not get a job that pays comparably, your mental health is worth so much more than this.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. I do like your barometer for when it's time to go.
You're writing to an anonymous Annie. It's time to go.
Yeah, just stop writing that and look for a new job. 7:59. We're going to get to Ron's news and today's More Ron moment. Don't forget, again, Walk Worthy Men's Conference is this Saturday, guys. Would love to see you there. It's this Saturday. Okay? Text WALK to 440-546-2255. Text WALK to 440-546-2255. Then coming up in a few minutes, we're going to hear from our friend Lauren about 2 different ways that we all run from God.
It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Christian counseling for adults, couples, children, and families. North Coast Family Foundation. WCRS Cleveland. WVMS Sandusky. WVML Millersburg. WVMN Newcastle. WVME Meadville. WVMU Ashtabula. And with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Israel is sending tanks into the occupied West Bank for the first time in 20 years. It's 7:59. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The move comes after bombs exploded on 3 buses last week outside Tel Aviv. The country's defense minister says thousands of Palestinians displaced in areas targeted by the military will not be allowed to return to their homes. A Cleveland church was the scene of a vehicle accident on Saturday. Police report an SUV crashed into the New Life Fellowship Church on Warner Road. There has been no word of injuries or the extent of any damage to the church, and the accident is under investigation. And authorities are investigating the death of a Cuyahoga County Corrections Center inmate. The 41-year-old female prisoner was found unresponsive inside her cell on Sunday and was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. A spokesperson for the county says the woman's death does not appear to have been a result of the use of illegal substances. In sports, the Cavaliers tamed the Grizzlies 129-123, and the Penguins were outgunned by the Rangers 5-3. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Partly sunny, breezy, and warmer today, with highs in the upper 40s. At last check, mostly cloudy, 37 in Cleveland, 33 Akron and Canton, 34 in Youngstown.
It's time for your moron moment.
America Saves Week, which takes place the last week of February, is an annual rallying cry for average Americans to engage in successful saving. We suggest you complete a budget, which then helps you to gain a clearer picture of your resources, set savings objectives, and devise a plan to attain them. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:01 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m. 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 9
This is WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Happy Monday. And then there's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Walk Worthy Men's Conference is this Saturday. It's hard to believe it's already here.
Yeah, and the tickets are flying like hotcakes off the shelf.
Yes. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. That's true, yes. And we'd love to have you there, guys. It's going to be fantastic. We'll have donuts and continental breakfast type stuff at the beginning when guys gather at Canton Baptist Temple this Saturday morning. And then we'll hear a message. We'll have a break. We'll hear a message. We'll have Chick-fil-A for lunch. There'll be a panel discussion that I've called You've Got Issues. Because you do. How do I know that? Because I've got issues. And Ron does.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Every human does. And we're going to focus specifically on relationship issues, whether it's marriage, parenting, work, friendship, church. And we got a panel of experts, as in all three of our speakers. We're going to plop them down, and they're going to give you between all of them, there's probably like 100 years of pastoring.
Yeah, I was just trying to rack that up without insinuating that they're aged, but they've been around a while.
I was looking through materials this weekend. Pastor Maiden, I think, 40 years in his church or something like that.
I believe that.
So they'll be able to answer your issues, and you can submit them anonymously. We'll explain all that at the event, but get your tickets, okay? Text WALK to 440-546-2255, or just go to moodyconferences.com.
Okay, my small group is talking about the book of Jonah.
That's a good one.
We're reading through a Tim Keller book called Rediscovering Jonah. Okay.
I didn't know Keller did a Jonah book.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Tim Keller. Now you're
Cool.
making me
No,
regret my
I
thinking.
believe you. He's great. I'm excited. Sorry. I'm excited.
No, it's really good so far. And in the first chapter of this book, he talks about two different ways we run from God. So quick overview of the book of Jonah and the story. Jonah is in Joppa. God says, go to Nineveh. And he said, no. And he went to Tarshish, which is the exact opposite way of Nineveh. 2,500 miles, so this one map says. In the opposite direction.
No, why did he do that again? Like he didn't like Nineveh, right, or something? Or?
Yeah, the Ninevites were a very violent people.
So they're scary.
They were like beheading people and like traipsing them around in like the square. And they were happy about it. They were proud of themselves. They were very scary people. And he's like, so basically, God, what you're telling me is to go get killed. That's what you're saying. And so he ran the opposite direction.
And it must have taken him a long time because ancient world, 2,500 miles in the opposite direction.
Long time.
This is like weeks?
Yeah.
At least?
At least.
Wow. I didn't picture it that way.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit shorter.
Or like just like a little bit out of the way.
Like,
he
I'm running over here.
He went towards Nineveh, like took a right turn. No.
Yeah.
Opposite direction.
Okay.
So that happens in the first half. Whale happens. He rediscovers. God's like, hello, I still want you to do what I said. So then he makes his way back to Nineveh. Okay. All the way back to 2,500 miles and then plus some to get to Nineveh. So Tim Keller's talking about the two ways that we run from God, and we see it in both. We see both in Jonah. The first way is wickedness. We're like, I don't want anything to do with God, so I'm just going to sin, be bad, be filled with evil and vile things. And we see it in Romans 1:29. It says, their lives became full of every kind of wickedness, sin, greed, hate, envy, murder, quarreling, deception, malicious behavior, and gossip. They are backstabbers, haters of God, insolent, proud, and boastful. They invent new ways of sinning, and they are disobedient to their parents. They refuse to understand, break their promises, are heartless, and have no mercy. They know God's justice requires that those who do these things deserve to die, yet they do them anyway. Worse yet, they encourage others to do them too. So the first way to run from God is you're just, I don't care about him, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to be wicked and evil, and that's fine. So you're running from God.
And they're going to invent new ways to sin, which I found
That's
that
right.
part amusing.
That's
It's
right.
like whatever didn't list, they're going to make it up.
So we see, in sort, Jonah doing that. He's running to Tarshish. He's saying, no, I don't want anything to do with what God is asking me to do. Forget that guy. I'm doing what I want. The other way is in Romans 2:17-25. You who call yourselves Jews are relying on God's law, and you boast about your special relationship with him. You know what he wants. You know what is right because you have been taught his law. You're convinced that you are a guide for the blind and a light for the people who are lost in darkness. You think that you can instruct the ignorant and teach children the ways of God. For you are certain that God's law gives you the complete knowledge and truth. So the second way we run from God, number one, opposite of him, everything that is against God you do. Opposite of that is we run from God by acting like we know everything and we just follow the law. We become moral and right and perfect. So then we don't need God.
I can do it myself.
Right.
The person probably wouldn't say that.
No. They think that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But what they're actually doing is hiding from God. Because they go to church every week. They don't sin. So they say they volunteer at church every day of the weekday. They set up church for Christmas. They follow all the laws.
They pray real loud.
They
before
pray
dinner
really loud.
at restaurants.
They wake up at 6 a.m. and do their quiet time.
Post it on Instagram, highlighting.
They tell people about Jesus. They share the gospel on the street.
And those are all good things, by the way.
But a lot of times what you're actually doing is hiding from God with your good deeds.
No, but that person would tell you they're doing those things to get closer to God.
Yeah, but if you're just doing all those things just to fill your time and not actually be in relationship with God, you're not actually showing any of yourself to God. You're just doing things.
So could this person be like subconsciously saying, I'm afraid to be with God or to know God?
Oh, yeah. I'm afraid to let myself be known by God.
And see, that one's the scarier one to me because it's so subtle and sinister. It's like when someone's totally rejecting God and going the opposite direction, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But somebody could be doing all the religious things, thinking they're doing the right thing, having no idea they're running from God.
And no one can call them out on it because it's a little bit harder to pick up on what they're doing.
Right.
Yes.
Keller says, we all know and acknowledge that we can run away from God, but what Paul is saying in these 2 Romans verses, what Paul is saying is that it is possible to avoid God by becoming very religious and moral people.
Oof.
Because if you become very religious and very moral, you don't need God. Why do you need God if you don't do anything wrong? Why do you need God if you're not daily, dying to yourself and showing yourself how wrong you are?
Wow.
How opposite of God you are, all the ways that you sin in your heart and your mind.
Yeah, I see this in this era of social media, right, where there's people they've just got it all figured out. In fact, they have their whole ministry, quote unquote, is based on destroying people that disagree with them about their religious activity, their theology. They got it all figured out.
It's very ignorant to think that you've got it figured out, that you've arrived after 2,000 years of people struggling with certain passages or 2,000 years of general consensus on this or that, but you've got it figured out.
It's like it's a spiritual arrogance that pervades this type of person.
Right.
They've never met a theological dilemma that they can't solve.
Mm-hmm. So, what's the answer to it? To the 2 ways we run from God? Because I think there's times in our life that we do both.
What do you mean, what's the answer?
So, how do we find the middle of not just doing everything right, but also not just turning towards wickedness?
Gotcha.
The easier turn is the person who is, doing the evil. They're making up new sins. That side of it that Paul was talking about. I think that's the easier one to turn from. And we see those dramatic testimonies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's where they finally hit rock bottom and they have to make a choice. And they do. And they surrender. And they live powerful lives of surrender. The other one is really hard. It's everywhere.
I think we have to start by what are ways that you've been running from God? In both ways. It could be either way. You have to examine your own life. What are ways you've been running from God in turning towards wickedness and evil things and just continuing to go on sinning? Or what are ways that you're hiding from God, if we put it a different way? What are the ways that you're hiding from God by just doing all the right things and knowing all the right things?
Yeah, I mean, I did the more sinister one for most of my life. I grew up in a Christian home, so in order to do the right things, I specifically avoided doing all the overtly naughty things that Paul was listing.
Yeah.
Not to say I wasn't sinning, but I was like, well, this is what I have to do. So I did that. And then for me, it was knowledge. It was like, if I could just gain enough knowledge, that would equal relationship with Christ.
Yeah, and that's what the Roman 2 passage was exactly calling out. He literally said, you think that you have all this knowledge, and so it makes you better and it makes you closer to God.
And I would have read that
I'm like, yep.
In
you're
my
right.
intense reading, I would have been like, yeah, those Jewish guys. Look at those guys. What are they doing? Losers. If they were. If it was modern day, it'd be different. You know, me and my friends, we got it.
I think we have a lot of modern day Pharisees in the church. A lot.
I would venture to guess. It's going to sound horrible. So yell at me. Get ready. Take a deep breath. Over half of people I encounter in churches and such.
Could be.
It's possible.
Like they are doing all the things and they're pretty proud of it. I mean, they're not going to say that out loud, but they would accept the award if you gave it to them.
Yeah, the hard part is they don't know what they're doing. They don't realize that they've made themselves God. And I think that's just part of human nature and something a lot of us are going to struggle with is, I mean, the story of God is so good, it almost feels like it can't be true. We don't have to do anything. And that's especially hard to grasp in our American culture of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But like, no, we don't have to do anything. Like, yes, God wants us to obey his statutes and commands, but we don't have to do anything and there's nothing we can do.
And we're doing it because we're afraid either he's going to be mad at us if we don't, or that if we don't do it, it's not going to get done. Like Jesus needs me to do in the nursery this week. He needs it.
If I don't do it, who will?
And then you get like frustrated at all those losers who aren't volunteering like you.
Right.
And a lot of times the churches will enhance that by they have a desperate need for workers in the children's church and the nursery. So they'll mention that frequently. And then you pat yourself on the back and be like, well, yeah, I'm doing my part.
I'm a super Christian. Now, to what extent did you experience this, Lauren? I mean, you're a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
And you went to Moody Bible
I know
Institute.
the rules. I know how to follow the rules real good.
Because you're a pastor's kid.
That's right.
Was it more the pastor's kid part or the Moody part that made you the rule follower?
I think it's also just a personality bent. I am just a rule follower just in all things in life, not just my Christian life.
Yeah, like show me the box and I'm going to live in it.
That's exactly right. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just growing up in church and you're taught in church what to do, what not to do, and how to do it. And then do the same thing at Christian school. You get in trouble if you don't do those exact things. And then going to Bible school, it's the same thing. I think that made me, after college, when I was out on my own, to be like, let me test my wings here. Let me actually run the opposite direction. Let me do the other way of what everyone has been telling me to do for my entire life. And they've not provided me the ways of, hey, you actually have to have a relationship, not just follow all these rules. So I just did the exact opposite, and I turned toward the wickedness and finding new ways to sin and do all of that. And it took rock bottom moments, probably multiple of them, for God to say, hello, there's a way in between.
You ran to Tarshish, basically?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Because Jonah in the first half of the book, runs to Tarshish and does his little thing. He's like, I'm running away from God. I'm turning my back. I don't want anything to do with him. Then he comes back, he's humbled, and he actually goes to Nineveh. But then he's like, but these people are really bad. I'm way better than them. So I don't want to tell them the gospel because why would I? I'm better than them.
Yeah, and see, your experience is one that almost says that, people hate deconstruction. It was a big thing for a whole year in the Christian faith.
It still is.
Yeah, people are like, it's scary. Don't let your kids deconstruct. But there's a layer at which all of us at some level have to deconstruct from one of those two ways to run from God. Because I think it's pretty universal that we do one of the two.
Yes.
If not both.
Yes.
It's not until you break it down.
Right. I think everyone has moments of doing both.
And yet there's people that want to scream at me like, you never deconstruct. You can't. If you do, you'll leave the faith.
Not true.
It's almost needed. Mm-hmm. That's controversial.
I'm
Ron Eastwood. Ron.eastwood at moody.edu.
I think if you believe all the things that you believe as a child, you have to start deconstructing that in anything. So you want kids who believe in Santa Claus to still believe in Santa Claus when they're 28? No, you have to start pulling away layers of things that you believed as a child that may not actually be true, or that you interpreted incorrectly as a child, or what people told you, adults told you, and they thought we were being helpful. It didn't quite compute in a child mind, and you have to change it.
So the one who needs to deconstruct likely is the Christian kid, the kid in the Christian home?
Maybe.
Uh-oh.
That's why they do it, is because they say, I need to take ownership of my faith and figuring out, do I actually believe what's been passed down to me? Because you cannot pass down an ideology.
I think it can be a very good thing because it actually makes your faith your own, not your parents'.
Right.
And for those that left the faith, they were probably not real stable anyway, and we're probably going to at some point, regardless of what label we gave it.
Wow. 440-546-2255. You're welcome to join this conversation. It's 8:20. We're up against quick break. More on WCRF and Mornings with Brian in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Michael Rydelnik of Open Line. You know the only reason we can enjoy Open Line or any of your favorite Moody Radio programs is because of the generous support from our listeners. You've heard that Share starts March 11th, but did you know you could help us start stronger with your pre-share gift? We'll say thanks by sending you a copy of the compelling book, Killing Sin. Thanks for helping us get started strong with your pre-share gift.
Visit moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
You know, you're really not stuck, really. People think when it comes to paying for health care, they just have to kind of go along with the way it is, no matter how frustrated they are with it. But it's not true. MediShare has been a huge help to people for 30 years now. And more these days, especially, people are realizing what a great alternative it is. And the difference isn't just the savings, which are huge. It's the whole thing. You're a part of something good. It's a community of people who care for and pray for and encourage each other. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in either. You're actually sharing. And yeah, back to the savings, often up to $500 a month with MediShare. The customer service is refreshing too because they're for you. It's just a different way. And even though you might feel stuck with the frustrating status quo, it's not so. You can call them now and start saving and feeling better about how you're doing it too. Here's the number. It's 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
8:26, there's joy in the journey. It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland. Want to talk a little bit about marriage vows. Christianity Today has their own thoughts about whether or not you should be doing, like writing your own vows. So we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
I can't resist this though. I want to bring it up now. It's exciting. We have Larry the Cucumber on the show next week.
Yes, on Tuesday.
I'm so excited.
You two are right in the zone of having grown up with this.
I had a Larry the Cucumber doll. He was my absolute favorite.
So I'm hoping you two do some prep work
It's a
here.
cucumber doll.
I did.
Larry Boy. Now,
Love Larry Boy.
the guy who
I did have a Larry Boy as well.
Oh my gosh.
you were all in.
Yeah, well, my parents bought it for
Veggie
me,
Queen.
but I loved Veggie Tales.
Madame Blueberry.
Oh, that was one of my favorite episodes.
Now, his name is Mike Naraki. He will do the voices on command. I've met him before. Wow. So you'll have to ask him.
I won't be asking many questions.
She'll be fangirling.
I will be fangirling.
Yes.
About Larry.
Will you guys send me, like, you got to let me know things you want me to ask for you. I love this stuff, but I didn't grow up. I listened to it. I didn't watch it because it was on the screens for my children behind me when I was driving.
No, this
In fact, I
was
haven't
my
seen any of
childhood.
them, but I've heard many of
Oh my
them.
gosh, you need to go back and watch.
So good.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
I told my sister and she was thrilled out of her mind for us. Maybe she'll tune in.
I did confront Bob the Tomato about him not being a fruit.
A fruit.
Or a vegetable.
Yeah. He's a fruit.
Well, they had lots of fruits on the
Yeah, they
show.
had the blueberries. Madam Blueberry.
There was a peach.
Yeah.
There were the grapes.
Yeah, the grapes of wrath, of course.
Should we confront Larry on this?
No.
We can just blame it all
It's
on
just the
Bob.
produce show. Produce tales.
That's what they should have done.
Produce tales.
We're gonna give him advice. This is what we're gonna do. Our team has advice for you, Mike. You guys should have not been Veggie Tales, but Produce Tales.
Produce
It
tales.
doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, it really doesn't.
I'll file that away and bring that up. But anyway, back to marriage. What did you all do for the vows part of your service? Did you write your own? Did you recite ones? Do you remember? What do you got for me?
Our pastor gave us a list of some to choose from. They were all very similar, but these were the ones. I think we had the option. We didn't want to do our own vows. We both knew we'd be too nervous, so we just selected from a list. And we did have a few minor tweaks with the wording of the one we chose.
Do you remember some of those tweaks? Because some people object to some of the. There's so many different ones, but some women might object, for example, if there's something that sounds like there's ownership involved or something in some of the old ways to say it.
I think the one we changed was till death do us part. We changed it to as long as you both shall live, because I didn't want to talk about death at my wedding.
Okay.
That's just a little. I know the realities of this contract, but that's just a little dark for today.
I didn't know I didn't know if you made it unless you really screw up.
Yeah, I know.
No, you're saying as long as we both. I like that better. It's like, remember our friend Len Neville's, nobody's getting out of this alive.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, there's some truth to that. What about you and Eddie Cuevas III?
No,
Second.
that's my son.
The second, sorry. Second.
Junior. We made our own.
You made
Totally
your own?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to recite them.
I don't remember them.
You don't remember any of it?
I have them written
theme?
down somewhere, but I don't remember them.
So if someone said to me, okay, Brian, write your own vows, I don't even know what that means. Am I supposed, is it a love letter? Is it a, what is this?
I mean, I went off of
How did you approach it?
The sickness, health, wealth, whatever. I did off those themes, but made it more personal to our lives.
You don't have any examples?
No, I really don't. I mean, I know at the time I had a chronic illness, and so in sickness and health, it was a little bit more personal and emotional because I really did have some chronic illness stuff. So
okay,
yeah.
So you weren't being silly about it and making Eddie say real loud.
I did make one joke.
And health. Oh, you made a joke.
Of course.
What was the joke?
I don't know, about watching Harry Potter with me or something like that. Watch Harry Potter with me or else or something. I don't know.
Did he have to go? I will.
No. It was I said all of mine, and then he said all of his that he wrote.
Did you surprise each other with the vows at the event?
Yeah. We didn't know what each other were writing.
Oh, wow. Was that emotional?
Yes.
For both of you?
Yeah, for both of us.
Oh, that's really sweet. I actually saw my wife's cousin did one where they wrote vows, but they actually moved off away from everybody and shared them privately.
Oh, that's nice.
While we watched. It was really kind of sweet. Now, they ended up getting divorced, but different story. But it was really sweet to watch.
At the time, it was sweet.
So they must not have said the right things. Just kidding. It's not a magic spell. Brave Sir Ronald.
Yeah, totally traditional.
So it was repeat after me.
Right.
I, Brave Sir Ronald.
Do solemnly swear.
In sickness and health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For better or worse, as long as we both shall live.
Was that your call or Dana's call to do that?
I don't know. I don't think either of us wanted to write our own, so it was just go with the flow.
Yeah, and we did more traditional vows. I don't remember what they were. I don't remember even, did I have a choice? Maybe?
Did I have a choice?
No, I don't remember that we were wound up about that.
Right.
Like, it was the least of our concerns was the vows part. It was like, well, of course, you do the vows. Sarah was just really wound up. She didn't want the Here Comes the Bride.
The song?
Okay.
Yeah, because of the nursery rhyme that was developed
Right.
around it. She's like, I'm not having that.
Yeah,
So
we didn't use that one either.
But we wanted a traditional classical type of thing. So we hired a classical pianist to come and perform.
Nice.
A Pachelbel or something.
I don't know what it was, but it was like, I heard it. I go, yeah, that one. That's good. Anyway, the vows, I don't remember. But somebody at Christianity Today is mad at you, kind of. Not mad at you, but they object to what you did, Lauren.
That's fine.
They said, don't write your own marriage vows.
Okay.
And they have some reasons for this.
Okay.
We're going to go through those reasons and we'll evaluate together if they have a good point or not here in just a minute.
Hey there, I'm Brant Hansen, and they call this the best kept secret in the world, and it needs to not be a secret anymore. It's the work of Cure International Children's Hospitals, 8 top-notch surgical hospitals healing kids in the name of Jesus, and this is the best part, openly, brilliantly sharing the gospel with the kids and their families as they heal. 18,000 surgeries last year, 40,000 plus people making decisions for Christ. This should not be a secret. Check it out for yourself. You'll see what I mean. Cure.org/Moody. Cure.org/Moody.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
CC Winans, 838. Don't write your own marriage vows, says Christianity Today. At least one writer there. We'll get to that in just a moment here. But Walk Worthy Men's Conference is this Saturday, guys. Goodness gracious. Get your tickets. Text WALK to 440-546-2255. And as we get to this marriage vows thing, you know what's exciting? History.
There you go.
Yeah. Where's my history people? They're not here, are they?
Just you.
I do enjoy history from time to time. I just watched Oppenheimer this weekend.
Oh, that's a good one.
Excellent. Brave Sir Ronald.
Yeah. I was surprised because it started in so like it's going to be a documentary, and I thought a 3-hour documentary, no thanks.
Yeah.
But then it actually picked up and became kind of exciting.
It's pretty wild. Now, I bet, do any of you know the history of the wedding vows? When is that from? Anyone?
You already know the answer, so why don't you just give it to us?
It comes from the 1500s, like the Reformation era. I had no idea this was the case. But marriage then was in crisis.
Oh. In the 1500s?
Yes.
Sad.
I had no idea. I thought it was always fine until today.
Yeah.
You know, right? When I was like, oh, marriage is
There's
a
nothing
crisis.
new under the sun.
No. What was the crisis? People as young as 14 were getting married in secret without an officiant.
Oh.
And then if they got pregnant and the guy was like, I don't know if I want a kid, he'd just deny they ever got married.
Yeah, because there was no one there to even witness the ceremony, no record or anything. Wow.
And so the church courts were overrun with marriage disputes.
Oh.
And so the Catholic Church's solution was annulments, which is like, this never happened. And Martin Luther was like, no, we're going to fix this problem. In fact, the only way you're going to be married in the church now, if you're a Protestant, although I don't even remember what they called it then, but if you're in this group, you have to say vows publicly. And then they kind of designed the traditional vows. In the name of God, I, brave Sir Ronald, take you, Dana, to be my wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until we are parted by death. Dari's favorite part. This is my solemn vow, is how it ends traditionally. This is my solemn vow. I think we did a closer one to that. That's what you did, Ron?
Yeah, we didn't do solemn vow. It was so help me God, I believe.
And the in the name of God part, I like that. Although I don't know that anyone does that anymore. To start it off that way?
Yeah, I can't think that we did it or any wedding I've been to that did that.
But, okay, so this person, all about the history of it, says we shouldn't depart from that for a number of reasons. But generally speaking, they've heard people make two mistakes in customized vows.
I'm not worried.
You're
Brian.
biting your lower lip.
I'm still married. I'm just listening.
Oh, okay.
I'm still married, so whatever Christianity has to say doesn't mean I'm not married.
This person says that people will make personalized vows that are far too specific, as in she's heard people create like gender roles and theological assertions in their vows.
Oh.
Something as specific as divvying up chores, like she vows to do the dishes and he vows to keep the car in working order. And I laughed too, but this was in a wedding. And she said the other one...
What if the in sickness part means that one of you can't do one of those things?
That's her point. And she even talked about when they first got married, her and her husband, when they were in pre-marriage counseling, they had this vision of what they were going to do. She was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And the pastor was like, I'm so glad you worked through that. However, that might not happen. And she got really upset. And her point was that you can't vow for a vision of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You can't create a vision of what you want it to be because it could change.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And the other one she said is public love letters she's heard. That's really more about our feelings for each other as opposed to promises to each other. And then she makes a big case for this is why we need traditional vows. Did you and Eddie vow to do things, or was it just, oh, Eddie, your hair, your smile?
No, it was
you
not.
make me melt.
It was not a public love letter.
There was probably some of that mushy stuff, right?
Maybe. But like I said, we followed the traditional, like, these are the vows. We just made them personal.
So you kind of use that as a template.
Right.
So you still did vows?
Yes.
Did you vow to always do the dishes?
No.
Like,
I did not.
Did you do anything specific in yours? Like divvying up chores or roles or anything?
No.
Did you consciously not do that or?
No, it wasn't conscious.
Okay. So what do we make of her critique? Because what she's saying is, do the traditional thing because that's where the value is in a vow. It's you're making a promise, and that's what a vow is for.
Right.
It's a fair argument, but I'm not sure it's a huge deal. Maybe the solution here is just have pastors vet the vows before they, because I have heard of some weird ones. It's like, maybe we need to rethink this entire thing, not just these vows. Like not personally, but like I've heard stories. I do think there is something to be said for the traditional vows, but I don't see anything wrong if people want to personalize it. But yeah, I do think pastors just need to like be a little bit more forward with, listen, the person you're marrying is not going to be the same person that you end up with. Jimmy and I have only been married 4 years. We are very different people. Had we done any of those like specific promises, we would have broken all of them.
It's a little disorienting in a sense, isn't it? Where you're like 4 years in, you're like, I didn't know it would be like this.
Yeah. I mean, life has thrown us many curveballs, couple moves, like, we're different. Life has handed us things we did not expect, could not have anticipated. We couldn't have made specific promises to each other in our vows.
And I'm not certain I object to a public declaration of love either. Like a love letter in some sense. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I think those are fine.
I think there's something touching about that. We live in an era where, I don't know, gather a group of people and say in front of the person you love how much you love them and why. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, it's not a business deal going down here.
That's right. It sounds like you're signing a legal contract if you're only concerned about vows and promises.
True.
Yeah, I think you are two specific people and you have a specific life together. And I think it's okay for your wedding to reflect that, for it to have personality, for it to reflect who you guys are. I don't think it needs to be a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah, you don't want it to be like, I don't need to go to any more weddings because you see one, you've seen them all.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this person is saying perhaps this is one of the solutions to the problem we have today in marriages where people's expectations are let down. They create a vision that's unhealthy and untrue. No?
I don't think.
This is not the fix?
No. That's a much bigger problem than just what vows you do and don't say.
But I think the vows are a symptom of that problem, potentially.
Yeah, a symptom, but it's much larger than just, we said these vows, so I can't even remember what my vows exactly were.
Well,
so
right.
for someone to say, you said at our wedding you do this, and that's the entire problem of our marriage. No, there's a lot more than that.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
someone using their vows as a weapon?
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, Sarah and I did the very traditional route, right? With vows like this. What were they? No idea. So for me to claim that has more value is ridiculous because I don't even know what I said.
Yeah, and also we're saying that you change over time. When you get married, I was a fresh 23. 23. And that's who I was at that time. I think your wedding reflects who you are. Just like you look back at pictures and you're like, wow, I would never do my hair like that again. Or I'd never do my makeup like that again for my wedding.
Or I don't talk to some of these people anymore.
Right. Some of the people that are in your wedding are not in your wedding anymore. So what, are we just going to get rid of groomsmen and bridesmaid because you change over time? You're a specific type of person at that time.
So she's, I think, diagnosed the problem correctly.
Yeah.
But her solution might be a little weird.
I just think it's a little pointed. I think it's a larger problem than just your vows. That's not going to solve the problem.
But we do have people with inappropriate or idyllic expectations that will lead to conflict.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to find a single soon-to-be married couple that doesn't have idyllic expectations. I think that's just, I think we as a church need to be a little bit better about saying, listen, you're going to have problems. Here's how you can get help for those. But you're not going to find anybody that knows going in that this is going to be one of the hardest things they've ever done. It's just not going to happen.
And you come from different backgrounds, different family lives. And so you have even expectations you don't even know that you have just because it's how you were raised.
And I think the fog of love makes it, in some sense, impossible to hear the truth in this. Like, Sarah and I had a disposition of, what's wrong with all these people that have a hard first year of marriage? We won't be like that. And they would tell us, the first year's hard. You got bad marriage. On the way home from talking to them, we'd be like, these people are crazy. Hardest year of our lives.
I overheard someone say they'd been married 3 months and said, yeah, the honeymoon phase will never end for us. I had to try.
Throw up?
I had to try so hard. Like, this was one of the hardest things I've ever done was not laugh in their face.
But there's nothing you could have said to change their mind.
No, there was no point in me saying anything or arguing with them. And there were some people in there that had been married for way longer than I had that I'm sure were biting their tongues as well.
We drove away from our wedding and got hit by a bus, literally. So,
I forgot about that.
Wow.
So,
Okay,
life comes at you pretty quick.
We're going to take a break, and then we're going to hear that story again because it's a great story. And we got to remind you about Walkworthy. A few more things to go here on Mornings with Brian.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
Pastors have to make tons of decisions, including what to do to meet healthcare needs for themselves and their staff. Christian Healthcare Ministries specializes in making healthcare decisions easy and affordable. Not insurance, but a health cost sharing ministry for over 40 years. CHM opens the door for individuals, families, and yes, pastors to be a part of a biblical way to meet medical bills. Get more information and answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to the support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving our region's electrical industry for over 40 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
This February, join Today in the Word for an eye-opening devotional, The Truth About Temptation. We've all experienced the pull of the world and the flesh, and in this devotional study, you'll discover how you can recognize and respond to temptation with biblical wisdom. Devotional author Brad Bahrain invites you to learn from people in the Bible who resisted temptation. To join our study, go to todayintheword.com. Be empowered to live in victory over temptation. todayintheword.com.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
I always knew my little brother had the gift of gab, and he proves it to you every morning.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
whether or not it's wise to write your own marriage vows. And Lauren reminded us of one of the better post-wedding stories I've ever heard. You guys left your wedding and immediately got in an accident?
Not immediately, but basically immediately.
Tell us the story again. I forget the details.
We lived in Chicago, and we lived in an apartment, so we were circling our apartment complex for parking, street parking.
You're wearing your wedding dress?
Yes, I'm wearing my wedding dress. My husband is in his wedding attire, his suit and whatever. And we're waiting at a stoplight to turn left. And a city bus, just a bus, okay? In my mind, it's a double one, which has like the accordion in the middle. Eddie says it wasn't. He said it was regular.
He's always making everything like less than it was. I'm going with the accordion bus.
It might have been regular, but it feels like it was accordion in my mind.
Yeah.
So the bus is coming, and it is turning. It's turning left also into like coming to
so you're supposed
go
to like
pass
each other,
right.
kind of. Yeah.
So we're sitting at the light. The bus is coming. It's turning, and it's getting close. And I was like, oh, you start like, like your feet are stomping even though your car's not moving. You're like, oh my gosh. And then it just scrapes the whole front of our car and all the way up the side.
And the driver knew it happened.
Yes, the driver knew it happened. So he stops. Eddie takes the turn and parks on like the side of the street. And while he goes to look at the car, I walk over to the bus.
Were you sobbing at this point?
No, I was not sobbing.
What were you feeling?
Anger.
You were mad. Okay.
Yeah.
In your wedding dress.
Yeah, my wedding dress. And I get on to the bus, and I don't think he looked at me, obviously. And he says, "I'm sorry, ma'am. We just got in an accident. We're not taking any more passengers right now." And I said, "I know, that was me." And he looks at me and he said, "Oh, no." And then eventually Eddie comes over, all the passengers on the bus waiting for another bus to come get them, like the next bus.
And everyone's looking at Lauren in her wedding dress.
Right.
You don't like people staring at you.
No, yeah. So then the guy was on probation because he was new.
Oh, no.
And so he had to call his supervisor, the transit supervisor. So we had to wait for the police and the transit supervisor. Transit supervisor comes on. Me and Eddie are sitting there in our wedding attire. And he's like, "Did you just get married?" I'm like, "Yes." And the supervisor looks at the driver and said, "You see what you did? You just inconvenienced these people."
Oh, no. You didn't have to say that. The guy didn't mean to do it.
I'm sure he already felt awful.
So was this on the way to the reception or after the reception?
No, after this reception, we were just going home.
So it was late at night.
It was, it was probably like 11 or something like that.
Oh, Lauren.
And the next day we were supposed to go on a road trip in that car and all the way to Seattle from Chicago.
Car.
So did you have to cancel it?
We took the car. It was fine. It worked. The door would creak against itself, would like click, click, click against itself. But
yeah, there's two bride reactions to that in my mind. One of them is absolute devastation, sobbing in a puddle, and the other one is, "I'm wearing a dress and I'm going to punch you," like just raging.
Yeah, I wasn't raging, but I was angry.
I wouldn't blame you for. I mean, goodness gracious, the one time you're like, "Really, right now?" Oh gosh, how long were you hanging out there?
Oh, probably an hour to do the report, wait for the supervisor to get there.
So then it was going to be like well after midnight when you got home, when you were already exhausted and had a long day.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brutal.
We were so tired after our wedding, we actually cut things short. We're like, "Hey, we're leaving. We're too tired."
I'm going to go none nights at home.
So I would have been in tears just because I was so exhausted.
Yeah, it was crazy. So life comes pretty quick, so.
Good thing you vowed to love each other.
Testing those vows real early.
Right. Is there one that covers that? Let's see. We've got
sickness, health, rich, poor.
Hit by a bus.
Better or worse?
This was the worst.
That's it.
There it was. Okay, we're just about out of time today, but I got to remind you guys, if you haven't heard, there's a thing called Walk Worthy Men's Conference where like 1,000 or more guys get together every year for the past 30 years, and we grow in our walk with Christ together. It's happening this Saturday. Canton Baptist Temple. Would love to see you there. Get your tickets to hear Pastor Rodney Maiden, Pastor Paul Cannings, Pastor Mike Frazier, Ron Eastwood. A panel discussion where you can have a safe place to anonymously ask about that issue that's really troubling your soul at the moment, relationship-wise, whether it's your marriage or your parenting or whatever it is. And I know you've got one, or you're a liar, because everyone is always carrying something.
We all got issues.
Okay, so join us. Text the word WALK to us, and we'll send you back a link, and I'll drop my phone here. Right on the table. I was thinking about texting.
Yeah, text us, sure.
So text the word walk to 440-546-2255. Text walk to 440-546-2255. We will send you back a link to get registered, or just go to moodyconferences.com. moodyconferences.com.